Obama está revendo essa ajuda. No fundo, o grande temor dos americanos é que se o Paquistão se desintegrar, seu arsenal nuclear venha a cair nas mãos de terroristas. Tanto os paquistaneses quanto os militares americanos insistem publicamente que isso é impossível. Mas com o Talibã a apenas 100 quilômetros da capital, Islamabad, é o caso de se perguntar se esse cenário de pesadelo teria se tornado menos improvável. O Sem Fronteiras conversou em Nova York com o jornalista Warren Hogue, diretor do Instituto para a Paz Internacional.
Obama's strategy, first of all, in Pakistan and Afghanistan, is to go after Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda's principal objective right now in the world is to create a jihadist regime in Pakistan. Benazir Bhutto in 2007, shortly before she was assassinated, said Al-Qaeda could march on Pakistan within 2 to 4 years. That prophecy is slowly becoming true.
But what is the role of the Taliban?
The reason that Obama did not mention the Taliban is the goal is Al-Qaeda. Right now, the Taliban is working quite closely with Al-Qaeda. They're quite mixed up. It is the Obama administration's view that the way Al-Qaeda works in the world today is to work through local groups.
Until recently, Pakistanis and Americans would say, the authorities, that there was no way that the nuclear arsenal in Pakistan could fall in the hands of terrorists. Is that no longer so unlikely?
The greatest fear is what they call the insider threat. Understand, I'm sure you do understand, that the Pakistani military basically created the militant groups, that what they call the ISI, the intelligence services, created these groups to fight the Soviets, to fight India. And these are the groups that are now have become basically Al-Qaeda units or local units of militancy. The great fear is that while the Pakistani military does have control of the nuclear weapons, they won't tell anybody where they are, but they keep assuring the West we can control them. And the West pretty much believes that. Their greatest worry, according to Bruce Riedel, who did the policy review for President Obama, is what he calls the insider threat, that a member of the Pakistani military who has sympathies for the militants could go in there, give access to terrorists to those weapons, report back to his superiors, they're all secure, they're fine, don't worry about it. Meanwhile, one of those weapons has gone off and gotten into the hands of terrorists, which is, in the end, the greatest fear the West has, is that terrorists will have access to nuclear weapons. If it happens, it will happen in Pakistan.
There is a military solution?
They don't think there's a military solution, but they believe there is a solution which involves force, the military, plus tens of thousands of civilians. They're very strong, the Obama people, in a way the Bush people were not, in saying that there is a need for civilians to go in there and build the state, build the institutions of the state, a judiciary, a security regime, police. In Afghanistan.
Yeah.
In Afghanistan, not in Pakistan.
But what about Pakistan?
Pakistan, what the Obama administration is doing there is, number one, trying to sponsor a reconciliation between the present Prime Minister, Ali Zardari, and one of his predecessors, a man called Nawaz Sharif, for whom there's 75% approval, while Zardari is like 15%. These two men are at each other all the time. They cannot get together. The Obama people is over there telling these two men, get serious. You have to come together, because basically what is at stake is not only Pakistan, but maybe the future of the world, because of the threat that you pose to the rest of the world. So they're trying to broker some kind of political alliance. They're trying to convince the Pakistanis to get out of a state of denial.
Some people look at the region and say that there's a proxy war going on, that India would be behind the Afghanistan government, Karzai, that the Pakistani would be behind the Taliban, and Kashmir, which is always in the background, would be one of the main issues. What do you think of that?
I think that is pretty far-fetched because that's a series of conditions that would have to happen. But let me tell you the worry. Pakistan, all of its nuclear weapons are aimed at India. All the Pakistani military cares about is the threat from India. There is no threat from India. And part of the Obama administration's purpose is to convince the Pakistanis, and they have the assurance of the Indians. The last thing in the world the Indians want to do, the last thing in the world the Indians want is an unstable Pakistan. So if India furthers instability in Pakistan, they end up with an unstable Afghanistan, which is exactly against their interest. So India right now is not agitating at all against the Pakistanis. Washington is trying to convince the Pakistanis, look to the west, not to the east. Forget about the Indians. They are not threatening you. The threat comes from the west, and it comes from terror groups. It comes from Al-Qaeda.
Paquistão e Estados Unidos parecem travar um diálogo de surdos. O governo americano acredita que o Estado paquistanês corre o risco de se desintegrar, ameaçando a segurança mundial. O governo do Paquistão, de outro lado, acha que tem um conflito sob controle e se ressente de tanta interferência em seus assuntos internos. São visões muito diferentes que complicam a busca de soluções.